Hello and welcome to a new episode of Love Notes from Laya. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. It feels like spring is finally here. I mean, look at these tulips. So, yeah, really happy to sit here today and chat with you all. Today, I wanted to do something a little special, which was actually to play a bit of a game. I am one of the co-creators of the Women's Collective, which is a conversational card game to really start and create conversation around topics that we may have considered taboo or that we haven't really created conversation about and spoken about with our friends or our family or our community at large. And yeah, in the spirit of sharing and really getting honest with you all. I think so much of what we learn about ourselves and our own bodies comes through hearing stories about other people and what their experiences are. And from there, we get to really reflect on our own experience and learn about ourselves. So today, I will just be sharing a bit of my own story. The game itself has 6 different kind of themes. So, like menstruation, sexuality, self love, contraception, anatomy, all of these beautiful, juicy topics. But today we're really going to just be talking about menstruation. I thought it would be nice to create a bit of a conversation about it. So, I'm going to pick them out. You'll see this is what it looks like on the inside. And menstruation, we know that it is menstruation because they have these beautiful illustrations. And one thing that I want to say before we start is it'll go from lighter to deeper. So I'm going to start with the lightest question because this is what helps us get into the juiciness, also helps me get comfortable sharing with you all, and then we'll slowly start to move into the deeper conversations of it all. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, grab yourself a nice cup of tea, and the big thing is share your stories too with me. If these stories inspire you, if you can relate to any parts of these stories, or if it makes you just reflect on your own story, share it. Share it with me, share it in the comments, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your communities, especially when it comes to talking about our own bodies. So much of what we learn is by having and sharing these experiences. So here is me starting the conversation and passing the baton up and onwards to you. So I hope that this inspires you to keep speaking about it and all of these topics. If you are a human who doesn't menstruate and you're listening to this, also just absorb, listen to someone's stories, and ask the people in your life who do have a period, who do have a menstrual cycle, or have had a menstrual cycle. Maybe they've gone through menopause and they don't menstruate anymore, or maybe they never had that ability to do so. Ask them about their experiences and see what comes up. So let's dig in. The first one is, what is your period ritual? Think about things like drinking tea, taking hot baths, or adding slow movements to your routine. My period ritual, I would say, evolves a lot and has evolved throughout the years. It ultimately is about meeting myself with a lot of love and tenderness, no matter what it is that I want and need. And so I will say that does change cycle to cycle. But what I always do is deeply, deeply slow down. So if I have the ability to take, especially the first 2 days of my period off of work, I do, especially now as a self-employed human, I block those days off in my calendar. And that means that I usually make those days up at a certain point. Other points in the month. Usually in follicular, I just have an insane amount of energy and I can work and work and go. But when I'm bleeding, I just really want to take it easy. So I do really minimal stuff. I spend most of the day, I would say, lying on my couch over there. And yeah, whenever I've had access to baths, I usually do that. I don't have access to baths right now. So I really like to stay as warm as possible. I'll put some hot water bottles on. I have a very, very long hot water bottle, which is amazing to just like curl up with in bed. I feel like I can deeply like hug it and yeah, get super comfortable with it. So I love to yeah, really snuggle up with it. I'll make myself a lot of really herbal teas. And I like to burn a candle. I have some red candles that I save special for my period occasion. And yeah, I like to symbolize my bleed by wearing some kind of red. So I have like a red ring, or I'll wear like a red jacket. I'm not bleeding right now. I'm actually like deeply PMSing and in luteal. I'm about 5 days away from my bleed. So, yeah, this is just a symbol for the episode that we're recording today. But I really, really like to slow down. And a lot of times that means taking a lot of time for myself. So I don't really want to socialize. Or if I socialize, I tell my friends, hey, I'm bleeding. Do you want to come over? And I will, of course, have over people that I feel really comfortable with, that I can just be sitting on the couch and tell them when I'm feeling really tired and when I want to go or when I really want to be here. I love, love to read poetry when I'm bleeding. I feel very like mystical and connected to the, yeah, love of words and poetry. I think it's a time in my cycle where I have a lot of space and patience to understand a scripture or a poem and really sit with it and absorb it. I think some other times I can want to fill myself up with so many things that my patience for poetry can feel like quite but when I'm bleeding, there's nothing I love more than just sitting and reading poetry in the morning in my bed with a cup of tea and a hot water bottle, maybe lighting some incense, lighting my red candle, and making it this really sacred experience for myself. So, yeah, I would say those are my main period rituals. Yeah. I love to do some yin yoga as well. Love to do some stretches for my body. Very, very chill, very easy. But I do find that that helps move some of the period along, especially if I'm having some pain. Let's go on to the next question. Is your menstrual cycle more regular or irregular? How long does your period usually last? And then in the bottom, we have your cycle does not have to be exactly 28 days long. A healthy cycle can be between 21 to 35 days. So my cycle now is very regular, which if you know me or have been reading some of my stuff, you will know that that is not something I have always had the luck to experience. For so many years, since I can remember, essentially, I've had irregular periods. A lot of this was hormonally induced. So I've been on so many types of hormonal contraceptions. I could do a whole other episode, and maybe that will come another day. But my main issue and concern with my own body was I never really had a regular cycle. When I came off of birth control, my cycles were extremely, extremely long and very irregular. So I was on the tail end of things. From 35, I've even almost had like 40, 42-day cycles. It was really long. And that was around the time I was diagnosed also with PCOS. So I knew that my body was already kind of struggling and moving and navigating its own concerns and issues with that in its own way, and like with processing hormones. And I started to go to a lot of doctors, both kind of your typical kind of hospital doctors, but I also started to reach out to a lot more alternative doctors. I reached out to like homeopathic doctors who we did this really in-depth study of all of my hormones, and we realized that something was wrong more so with my liver. My liver wasn't processing everything well. So things like toxins, hormones, all of these things were just not getting really well processed in my body, and that was what was causing my issues with my cycle. I started going to an acupuncturist, which really helped me with this, and I started creating really big lifestyle changes when it came to my diet, my movement, my stress levels, and throughout that process, I went from a cycle that used to be 35 days or a bit longer to now a very consistent 31 to 32-day cycle. So I'm still on the longer side of things, and I think that's just what my cycle is like. Um, yeah, it's my reality. But it's regular, and I can tell you exactly to the day when I will be getting my bleed, which is amazing. That's all I ever wanted for myself and for my body, was to have the ability to say, oh, I know when I'm going to get my period, and I actually get my period, and I can feel the lead up to it, and I can prepare for it. We were talking about period rituals. Like, if I know that my period is going to come on Friday next week, I can block off Friday, Saturday, Sunday to really take it easy. And if people want to hang out with me or make plans, or if I need to do something, I can work around that. I can communicate what I'm going through, and I know that it will happen. So that is, yeah, the story with my regularity and my cycle. Do you track your menstrual cycle? If so, how? There are many ways to track your cycle, such as through an app with pen and paper, or by learning fertility awareness-based methods. So I do track my cycle, and this is how I know when I will get my period and where I am in my cycle more generally. Am I ovulating? Am I kind of in my luteal? Am I entering more the kind of like premenstrual phase? I track it very well, and I check this every single day. I've used multiple apps. I used to use Temp Drop, and that really helped. Now I use more so the Oura Ring and Natural Cycles, which go connected. Now, I want to give a big disclaimer here, because I know that that is an algorithm-based detector or cycle tracker, and our bodies are not algorithms. Our bodies don't move in the same way as algorithms do. So I don't fully and completely trust it like this is telling me everything as it is. I listen to my body. And through my work in women's health, and also just kind of getting to know myself and in menstrual health, I've learned a lot of these different biomarkers to come when it comes to ovulation. So cervix positioning, my cervical mucus, especially cervical mucus is one that I deeply use as a way of really getting to know myself. Also, just generally, like my emotions, I've learned very well how my emotions and sensations internally will shift depending on where I am in my cycle. So many times, like my first day of luteal, I will feel in my body, I'm like, oh, I have certainly entered luteal. And I'll check, and indeed, I had ovulated like a day before. So I can feel these difference in sensations within my own body. And this really helps me because if I'm, for example, at a festival and my body doesn't necessarily feel safe to ovulate, and maybe my ovulation is a bit delayed, I know that that is happening. It happened to me when I was traveling. Like I was traveling, my ovulation was a few days delayed. So my period was a bit of a few days delayed, but I could see that and understand that in my body, and I didn't depend on the algorithm to tell me, because the algorithm had no idea that I was on a plane and that I was traveling and in a stressful environment. So I was able to learn and adapt my cycle based off of my real life experience. And yeah, I'm wanting and diving deeper into fertility awareness based methods. And I'm really happy of how my journey has been and creating a deep relationship with my body to track and understand my menstrual cycle. So, yeah, that's me. Deep breath for that. A little bit of water. And let's go to the next. What was your experience like of your first period? What would have made it better? Oh, I was so young when I got my first period. I must have been around 11 years old. I think I was in sixth grade in school. So, yeah, really, really young. And I remember that it wasn't really a thing that was spoken about in school. I remember having to go to the bathroom and put like toilet paper, and I remember my period being that kind of like brownie, dry brownie kind of blood. It was very little, but I remember being like, this is clearly a period. And when I went home that evening, I told my mom, and then she told my dad, and I remember both of them like coming and like hugging me and like really congratulating me. And I remember feeling so uncomfortable. I didn't want to speak about it with them. I didn't really want to speak about it with anyone. And this is totally not on them, because I think they were so congratulatory and celebratory, and that was exactly how you want to be met. But I think there was all this like just deep societal programming that had already arrived to me as just like a mere 11-year-old, telling me that this was like not good, that it was shameful. Also, just I felt uncomfortable in my own body. I didn't want to be celebrated, and I didn't really understand kind of what was happening. It wasn't really discussed. I remember we had dinner that night, and I just felt really uncomfortable that whole experience. It was supposed to be this like very celebratory thing, and I remember really feeling uplifted, but I was just really uncomfortable. I don't think we talked too much about it. My mom probably like helped me get set up with pads and whatever I needed in the moment to kind of get me through that period. But I just have such a memory of just being like, why are you celebrating me? Like, no, I don't want this. And yeah, I really think that's just of how the rhetoric is around periods. And just as a young teenager, I had already absorbed so much information about this having to be something to hide and something that isn't good and shameful and shush and don't share it with your friends. And I was also probably one of the first ones of my friends to have my period. So I remember that just being such an uncomfortable and secretive experience. And when I think about what could have made it better, I think so deeply of this whole like red tent analogy and experience of being in community with women of all ages who are all talking and speaking about periods. I think it was this thing that no one really spoke about. I didn't really understand the magic of the menstrual cycle. And I think this was also just like, so many generations before us, they just also weren't educated on all of these topics that have to do with what the cycle is like the full range of it, how to be kind of share and pass down and see the magic and the celebration that comes with having a cycle. And when I close my eyes and I envision like the ideal experience of having my first period, I really imagine myself sitting with just these like grandmother figures, mother figures, like other friends of mine, and having a women's circle essentially with women of all different ages who are talking about and sharing experiences. I felt very lonely there because I wasn't able to share that experience with any of my friends. And there was not this transaction of information, or I don't know if transaction feels very transactional of a word, but this sharing of information and this gathering as a community. And I think that's something that I would have really loved and something I would like to do for other people who menstruate whenever they get their first period, or my offspring if I ever have kids who do get their period, or even just like for people in my community. You know, I have some of my friends are starting to have kids, and I am like excited for the day that these kids get their first periods. I'd love to be called over and be like, Laya, come over, like my kid just got her period, like we need you, and we're gonna do a women's circle, can you help? And just bringing that group together and having this deep, beautiful exchange from different people of different ages. You know, that kid who just got their period can invite their friends so their friends can also learn about it if they want to. Like, we all deserve this knowledge, and it's all about creating this community, and through that comes celebration. So that is something that I would like to really pass on and change and be a part of for all the kids in my life. And yeah, that I hope can change their relationships to their first periods. So yeah, that feels complete. Next one. What menstrual product? I don't know if you can see. There we go. What menstrual products do you use? When was the last time you tried a new one? So right now I use mostly and basically period underwear. I love period underwear. Period underwear is my favorite thing in the world. I feel so comfortable in it, and I feel like I can just bleed, and I'm comfortable in my own skin. I feel good. I love not putting something up my vagina. Like, it feels like my body wants to bring things down, and if I'm putting something up, it's kind of going opposed to it. So the whole idea of like tampons, or I don't know, anything kind of that goes up, it just doesn't really feel very comfortable for me, because what I really want to do is allow my bleed to just come and arrive and naturally leave my body when and as it wants to. So I don't want to cut that flow. I just want to let that flow happen. And I find that period underwear is extremely comfortable. I have probably about 8, 9 pairs of underwear. So it's really nice because I can recycle and move through them. So especially my first few days of my bleed where it's really heavy, I'll change my period underwear every 2 or 3 hours. And then as kind of it gets slower, I can, wear like 2 or 3 pairs during the day. This does mean that I need to have a very close contact to a washing machine. Because I usually have to do several loads through my period. So I usually also save all my laundry for when I'm bleeding. And then I just do a bunch of loads of laundry, which feels really nice. You leave your period and enter into like inner spring follicular energy with just a full clean closet. And yeah, I love it. It also helps me really stay home or be in a place I feel really comfortable in, because I want to have that access to a washing machine, and that feels really important to me. So I make sure that I'm in a space where I feel comfortable and I can communicate that I need access to a washing machine. And that mostly and predominantly means being at my own house. When I'm traveling, I use disposable pads, which I don't love, but it is what I find to be the most comfortable. Because, yeah, again, I like to let that flow happen naturally. And I would say it's only maybe 1 or 2 cycles of the year that I'm not in my own physical house where I need to use these disposable pads. And I allow myself to do that because I just don't have access to a washing machine and to take care of my period underwear the way that I would like to when you're on the move. Uh, I will say, I guess we'll get into this in the next question. I'm peeking and I'm seeing it. But I will say I'm very cautious about which period products I buy and which pads I use, because of the plastic and the toxin that goes into most commercial ones. So I have several brands that I will bow down to and feel extremely attached to and committed to because of their ingredients and the way in which they make my skin feel. And I know that those are just such a higher quality that I'm putting kind of towards my own skin. So we'll get into that in a bit, but that is just a sneak peek. The last time I tried a new one, this has been very deeply on my mind as something I really, really want to try is a menstrual cup. I tried it once or twice when I was in college. I didn't have a great experience. I don't think I really knew what I was doing or like tried. I don't think my insertion went well. I didn't really give it a shot. I didn't really have like a space to clean it. So I've started running a lot and I'm training for a marathon now. And something I've been speaking about with other friends of mine who have ran marathons or are runners is, I can't tell if race day is going to be on my period or not. And so I do want to prepare slightly just in case my race day ends up being on a day of my bleed. That is something important to me. And I've been thinking about, running with menstrual underwear, period underwear. That just sounds really intense. I don't know if that's necessarily something I want to do for like 5 hours. I also just feel like the texture against the skin might not be best for so long. I feel like it could lead to like some rashes or something. So I'm a bit conscious and nervous of that. I need to try those menstrual underwears on longer runs. And if anyone has some tips, please let me know. But something I really want to do is start trying a menstrual cup that I can use for running. I've ran into this when I've been diving as well. I went diving in Belize and the boat that I was on had no access to a toilet and I was bleeding. And yeah, I was using kind of tampons at the time when I was on underwater or like in water because I was just using pads outside of that. And I remember the boat trip was like 12 hours. And I went the day before, we had to like go there to try on our wetsuit and everything. And I went to the receptionist and I was like, hey, is there a bathroom on board? I'm going to be on my period and like, I don't really know what to do. And she was like, no, sorry, no bathroom on board. And I was like, well, like, what do you all do when you bleed? Like, I can't put on a tampon for that long. But I'm bleeding. Like, what do you do? She's like, we just free bleed. And, yeah. That day, I also, that was my first time diving with sharks, and I was fully free bleeding. I remember the first time, and it was a boat full of men, and I made one friend on that boat ride, and I remember just sitting next to him, and I was like, look, I need to tell you this because I'm freaking out. I was there by myself, and I said, I am on my period, and we were going on like a shark dive to just see a bunch of sharks. Oh my god, these were like white tip reef sharks, like quite big sharks, I'll tell you. But it was, it's okay. It wasn't like great whites. Definitely fucking massive though. And I just turned to this guy who was sitting next to me and I was like, I'm freaking out. I'm on my period and I'm free bleeding, and just in case a shark like tries to come too close to me or attack me, like I need you to know what's going on and why that might be. And we laughed about it. He was very kind and it was nice to know that like there was someone there who knew. And I remember we went straight into the water and I looked below me and there was a humongous shark. It was probably like at least 2 meters, 2 meters long, fucking massive, right below me. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. I'm gonna die. This is it. Like, I'm literally free bleeding. There is so much blood in my underwear right now. And I'm like in the water trying to move through it. And the shark couldn't give a fuck. It just moved away. And we saw so many other sharks that dive. It was 2 or 3 dives that day, and I would say each dive we saw between 20, 25 sharks, maybe even 30. So many. It was beautiful. It was stunning. It was my first time having so many experiences and visions of sharks. And they couldn't give less of a fuck, which was amazing to see and to experience and to dispel that narrative inside of me. Learned later that what sharks are really attracted to is the like heat that comes from a tissue if you have a cut, but like blood itself is not really the kind of temptation. And afterwards I was researching more of what other women divers do when they're on their period, and a lot of them do use menstrual cups. So this has now kind of come into my life several times, and I would like to get to know and use the cup for running, but also for diving, as diving is also a very big part of my life. And yeah, that's that. So ask me in a year. Hopefully my relationship with a menstrual cup has evolved and gotten much better. Yeah. Next one. Do you know what menstrual products are made out of? FYI, disposable pads contain up to 90% plastic. A pack of pads contains about the same amount of plastic of 5 plastic shopping bags. This is wild to me. When you go to once you start learning about this and you use menstrual products that are full cotton and don't really have much, if any, plastic, and you touch a pad that is seen as like your regular grocery store pad that people have at home, it makes me irk. I cannot believe that we have been fed that this is okay to put against our body and that so many people do it. It feels so bad against your skin. Like, you would never want to wear clothing that's made out of plastic and have that be breathing against your skin all the time. Yet we're putting that against our most intimate and beautiful, life-giving parts. And we're like scorching them in that plastic. And with that is also just releasing so many different chemicals that are in there. I've now, whenever I use not the pads that I'm used to using, I get such like irritation on the side, like where the wings go. So like not even kind of on my actual vulva, but just like on my legs from the plastic. I can feel the way in which the plastic is affecting my body, and I find it really disheartening. I usually, when I'm traveling, this happened to me when I was in the US recently, and also when I was in Chile. I have to go to like 3 or 4 different stores. I have to go to specific health food stores to find cotton pads. Which is how? And even the ones that I got when I was in the US, that were supposed to be these like natural organic cotton pads, and they still irritated me. Which, yeah, I find really mind-boggling that we have allowed the system to create these products that we're putting against our bodies and absorbing all of this gunk. And yeah, it really makes me feel sad for menstruators at large, because I think now slowly menstrual education and conversations about products and conversations about the menstrual cycle are becoming a bit more widespread. but it still feels like it's kind of in these circles, and we're slowly kind of rippling out and kind of extending that outward, but it still feels like it's in these little spaces. And how many people just don't have access to this education and don't really know? And we look at period underwear and even reusable pads, stuff of the sort, and they are pricey. And I mean, if you look at the investment over time, yeah, it's 100% worth it. Um, but also pads are really expensive. That's a whole other thing. Like whenever I have to buy disposable pads, damn, my paycheck. Like, whew, it's so much money every single time. So I also understand the need for having these really cheap and accessible menstrual products. But yeah, it's I think it's really important to really have these conversations about what menstrual products are made out of and what we're putting in and against our body, and trying to really make the conscious choice. If you have options, if you have means, think about what you're buying and think about what you're putting against your body. So, yeah. Next, share an embarrassing period story and how you overcame it. Embarrassment is about how you react to the situation. If you react proudly, it's not embarrassing anymore. I knew this question was coming and I was thinking about this before. I tried not to look at the questions at all before I was sitting down to do this because I really wanted it to just come from the heart and be a very honest and vulnerable share. But I knew that this question was in here. I created this game, so I knew it was coming. And I just don't really think I have any embarrassing stories. And honestly, if I were to redo this game, I don't know if I would include this card, or I would shape it in a different way. Because, yeah, I mean, I've definitely stained sheets. I've been at people's houses and I've leaked through my own pants. I've definitely stained stuff, and I've moved, like, bled through my pants, and I've definitely gotten my period in like awkward situations and moments. But I guess, yeah, you ask, you say something, you clean it up, but now I just don't care. Um, I say something. I take the precaution that I need. Also using period underwear, I haven't leaked at all, which is amazing. And I think I'm very proud about saying, hey, I'm on my period. This happened. Um, Help me. This is a natural thing. Or, hey, can I wash your towel? Like the towel I just used got period blood, but again, like what it says in the comment, it's about your reaction, and I mean, maybe I'm apologizing for like having had to make the person do an extra load of laundry, but I'm not apologizing for the experience of kind of bleeding through. I think I wouldn't want that to happen. And if that happened to a friend of mine, I've had so many friends who've like bled through a dress that I've lent them, or a jumpsuit, or my bed sheets, and it's just like, okay, life happens. Great, let's do a load of laundry and move on. So yeah, I would say it's a lot of it has just come with me learning so much more about the menstrual cycle, becoming an educator and researching all of these parts, and also really, yeah, trusting this and knowing this for myself, that it's not something I need to approach with embarrassment, but rather it's just a natural part of life. Like any other menstruator in my life also has had these experiences and is going through it, and I just want to talk about it and share. And I love it. I love it when a friend comes over to my house and tells me that they're on their period or that they're bleeding, and I like get to make them a nice little tea. We can like talk about it. I'll give them like nice cozy blankets. It's so welcome in my house. And yeah, it's really nice and really special to talk about and to share it. So I think a lot of it is really just sharing. And we are now approaching the final question, the darkest question of them all. What has your experience with period pain been like? How have you navigated this pain? FYI, 90% of women manifest at least one of the signs of premenstrual syndrome, like bloating, cramps, and irritability. Period pain. I do get some period pain. I quite like it now. I find it almost very like magical. There's some beauty to experiencing menstrual pain that connects me to a menstruating body. It makes me feel really connected to being a woman and to like the generations of women that came before me. We all experienced menstrual pain, and so many people in my life experience it, obviously in varying degrees, but it really connects me to having a menstruating body, to having a uterus, to having, yeah, a body that literally goes through the cycle and menstruates. And for example, my highs in follicular ovulation are so big, and this is my low, right? And I can also hold and accept and be with that low. Sometimes I have to take a little like ibuprofen or something if it gets really intense, or if I actually have, sometimes you have things in your calendar that you just have to do. And if I have period pain, I don't want to do them with pain, so I'll take an ibuprofen, and that is enough to subdue the pain. If I'm just home and I'm laying in bed and I'm reading poetry and I'm drinking tea, I like to feel the sensations, and it doesn't feel that bad to feel it. It does, I do have those cramps and the pain. It feels uncomfortable, but it I welcome it, and it doesn't feel like something I need to run away from. It feels like something that is helping me rebirth myself and transmute myself and experience the feelings of being born in the body that I'm born into. So, yeah, I really like to sit with it when I have the ability and the opportunity to just sit at home and be with it and breathe through it and eat well and nourish myself and drink good teas and have cacao and really sit there with my hot water bottle. It feels like a spiritual experience to fully and completely be with and surrender to the menstrual cycle. Now I know that's not realistic for every single menstrual cycle, every single kind of time I get my period within the cycle, or like within the year. Um, but I try to do that as much as possible. And if I need to move, if I need to do things that require me to be a bit more active, an ibuprofen will do. I have had moments of very intense menstrual pain. I've gone to medical providers about that, and that was how I also kind of ended up on more so hormonal birth control. And I would say it's very rare, maybe one or two of my bleeds every year are deeply painful. And that also, I would say, has to do a lot with the stress that I'm carrying. Again, taking a little ibuprofen will help me move through it, so it's not that bad. But I would say definitely if you're experiencing really painful periods, go talk to a professional about it. If something feels off with your professional, seek a second opinion. Talk to different providers, especially when it comes to our menstrual health and sexual health. We need to find the right person and doctors that we feel comfortable with and that we can speak about and that we feel good about what they're saying and telling us and how they're supporting us, because a lot of us can be medically gaslit or not listened to. So make sure that you fight for yourself and advocate for your right to access to good, caring care. And yeah, if we're talking premenstrual, definitely bloating. Definitely, I can get my patience gets really low. And yeah, I can get really irritable. So I definitely feel also those kind of PMSy symptoms. And yeah, I would say that feels like the right amount to share today. So we're going to leave it at that. Thank you for being here and listening all the way into this podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if any conversations were sparked for you, start them with your people. Also, comment, reach out to me. These conversations need and should be happening all around us. If you want to learn more about the menstrual cycle, more generally, if you maybe have never really learned the basics of the menstrual cycle and the 4 phases and estrogen and progesterone and how it all happens, not only just within menstruation, but in the whole menstrual cycle as a whole, I have a new offering. It's called Menstrual Cycle 101, and it's a 90 to 120 minute session where we get to sit down face to face or online in Zoom, just us in our own little corner of the internet. And we get to really talk about these subjects. And I'll bring all the information that I know, educate you, and help fill in any kind of gaps in your knowledge around what the menstrual cycle is, the 4 phases, also a little introduction into cyclical living, and really empower you with the knowledge to get to know yourself and your own body. If you want to share this with your significant other, maybe both of you bleed, or maybe just one of you bleeds, maybe you bleed, or maybe your partner bleeds, and you want to learn about this together, I also have sessions for couples. So this information just shouldn't land only on the person who menstruates. This should be for everyone. And so, especially if you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't have a period or who doesn't menstruate, this is a great opportunity to come together and to come into a session and to learn about it, both of you, so you can both be educated and empowered and understand what is going on throughout the cycle together. So know that that is available in my website, which is www.liaalonso.com. And you can always reach out if you have any questions. There's also some complimentary discovery and connection calls available. So if you're unsure, if you just want to have a little chat, just schedule a call and we can always hop on, talk a bit about what's going on, and see how I can best support you on your journey. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day, and sending you onwards with lots and lots of love from me, Laya. Take care. Mwah.